Hello, everyone. This is David coming to you for Let's Get Real. And I base everything on equal status. Men are men, girls are girls, white is white, black is black. Doesn't make any difference. All things are being equal in that. There is no such thing as equal. There is no such thing as just male, no such thing as just white, a female, or whites, or just black. There's all different type of shades of color of people, skin tone, and all. We're all the same on the inside. The outside's a little bit different. Thing doesn't make any difference to me. And just because you're male doesn't mean that you're going to act like all men. Or you're female, you're going to act like all females. We're all humans, and that's the first aspect that everybody needs to take into account. You are human. You are an animal of some sort. Now, we call ourselves humans a little bit more above that of a chimpanzee or a dolphin or whatever. But that's the way we look at ourselves, and we consider ourselves on that one level. But we're never on the same level. All things are not equal. Texas recently passed a thing about a child wanting to change his gender, and they said that it's illegal because that's considered child abuse. That later on they can do that, but as a child, the mother or father lets a child change their gender identity to something else. It's illegal because they call it child abuse. It's more an abuse not to than it is to do it. So, in that aspect, the state of Texas, by passing this law, has now created child abuse itself. Because, see, all things are not equal in this world. When we are born, and everybody says that your sexual preference comes from your choice. No, it doesn't. Your sexual preference comes from your DNA. We know that XX is one type of sex, XY is another kind, and we just accept that. That is the formation for all of it. But it's not. Some male may have a few more X's and a few more Y's in it. Just like some females may have a few more Y's and a few more X's in it. All things are not equal. Some men are just born typically male, and that's all that they are. Some female are born typically female, and that's all they are. But there is never an equality in the DNA sequencing. There is always variations, and this variation can be so minute till people today cannot detect it. But yet it's enough to where a boy wants to dress and feel like a girl, or a girl wants to dress and feel like a boy. This is all part of that DNA. Because if everything was equal, we wouldn't have the problem. But it's not equal, thus we have the problem, the situation. It's not a problem. The child, as it's growing up, will show you their gender identity. And for you to fail to recognize this is child abuse. You're not paying attention to your child enough to know what type of person they are. And when you don't do that, you're abusing that child. Period. That child has a right to feel the way that they do based upon the DNA sequencing that's in his body. That you can't change. That's the way they are born. You say, well, society has caused them to do this. No, it was never society doing this. Society does a lot of things, especially when it comes to religious beliefs, says that a boy born of male genitals has to act like a male, and a female born with female genitals has to act like a female. No, that's just religion. That's the fault of your preacher, of your teaching, of your. The truth is, not all things are equal. There are variations in everything. I told a class once that I was teaching about the consistency of equal. I put a glass of water half filled with water, and I said, I'm going to add 3 drops of red color to this. And I want you to do the same thing after I've done this, and I want it to be the same color red. And they all thought they had it. To test this, we took a paper towel and put it down on a paper plate. And we took just a little bitty drop and put it right there in the center of it. And each consistent ring or wet comes from that gave a different color. And they were all in variable stages. And we could see that there were no two alike. There were so many variations. Then I said, well, you did not do what I said, thus we've all failed. And I said, we failed. I didn't say you failed. What we failed at is to recognize that all things are not equal. DNA makes up the aspects of the way a person feels and the gender that they lean towards. A man, boy born with a little bit more of the female DNA, just enough, will always want to be female or feel like a female or dress like it. They want to change. Same thing. A female born with it, more of a male, wants to feel and dress and even had that sex change to where they are more of a male. This is part of gender identity. And that goes all the way back to us before there was male or female. There was just one. And some of them are still born today. There are some that are born with both male and female parts, still today being done. What is their gender identity? They can't identify with either one of them. There's a dilemma. But yet we fail to recognize this. And the only reason why we fail to recognize it is because of our religious background saying that no, you're either one or the other. Religion plays a part in that. Social aspects and things plays a part in that. That has nothing to do with the truth that the DNA of what the person really is. And you can't change that. No matter how many shots you give them, try to change that, that's not going to change. You cannot equalize that because once it sets, it's there. It's like a burst of sunlight coming to the earth. That burst of sunlight coming to the earth is set 93 million miles away from us. The moment it leaves the sun, and once it does, it's not going to change its course. It's going to hit the earth a certain way, certain aspects of it. It's like a man shooting a bullet 2 miles away. It's aiming one direction. And once it leaves that bullet, leaves that rifle, there's no more control. There can be off for just a centimeter, whatever. And then once he hits the target, it says, okay, hit it again in the same place, same way. They can't do it a second time because not all two rounds are the same. Not all two grains of the bullets are the same. Not all two rifling are the same. The wind varies. There's too many variations in it. Not all things are equal. I argued for the longest time with a math professor one time in junior high, middle school, as some people call it, and they kept on arguing that one and one is two. And I'd already been studying this, and I said one and one never really make two. There's always some variables in there to where there's never just two. You have to put in those. Maybe it's a little bit less than two. Maybe it's a little bit more than two. Maybe it's not quite one. You're adding it one and one. Maybe there's variables in that. You cannot control everything by saying it's male or female. Just like the DNA determines the color of a person's skin. That's it. That's all it is. You can't change that. You think that you're going to go in and pass a law and say that that's true, but that's the way it is. But that law you pass is saying that a child, you can't change a child's gender identity without it being child abuse. By you passing that law, you yourself have abused hundreds, millions of children in the state of Texas. You have done that. You yourself need to be prosecuted. You yourself need to be brought up on charges of child abuse. Not state level, but federal level. Because you cannot pass any law like that that's contrary to the nature of the way a person is. You can't do that. It's like the abortion laws that they come up with here in saying that moment a heartbeat is detected, the child is alive. And you're doing that within 6 weeks of a child's birth, of conception of it. Well, you can't do that because most women don't find out they're pregnant till about like 10, 11, even 15 weeks in. Do they realize that they're pregnant? You can't do that. That's going against the laws of nature, and you cannot control that. But in all practicality, the moment those cells divide to start forming a child, that's when it's alive. Not when the heartbeat, but from the beginning, point A to B of a life. Wherever point A starts and it starts multiplying, that's life. That's all biological life, single life there is in the world. Once it starts, there's going to be an end. And regardless of what you think, you know, well, it's a fine line there to draw. Well, the fine line comes in when you start trying to dictate the nature of laws. You can't do that. You cannot do a finite thing like that. Only reason why you're doing it is because of your religions. Haven't you seen the religions in the world have caused more wars and death than anything else? I'm not saying that religions are bad or that God is wrong, Allah is wrong, Buddha is wrong. No, but they have caused more deaths in this world than anything else. All the disease, all the famine in the world, all that put together, all the natural disasters and all like that, has not taken more lives than all the different religions in the world. It's sort of like a gang of people coming out of a stadium. You see two people start fighting. Next thing you know, the whole crowd is fighting. That's just a natural reaction of the whole aspects of human beings. They're going to fight. They're always on the edge of ready to fight. And when they see one, they want to jump in. And before you know it, everybody's jumping in. You got a little riot going on there. But when you start controlling the nature of who a person is based upon things that our DNA decided before they're even brought forth birth, then you have crossed into a world that you had no control. And thus, to pass a law to say that a child identity or their gender cannot be messed with until they're of age, that's child abuse. That's taking and making that child suffer for 18 years. And that's child abuse. Physical and mental child abuse. So if you pass that law and you're part of the House or people that passed this law, the governor that wrote it in, you broke the law. You are now being accused of child abuse. That's all part of the DNA, and you can't control that, nor do you have a say in it. It's David saying, let's get real, people.